Afternoon, everyone. I feel like I need to get you up and just to have a stretch or get a cup of tea or something. Can you just do that? I know I'm not supposed to because we're time poor, but I think we need to. So please, I can tap dance while we wait. So what am I doing there? Sing. I don't think you'll appreciate that. So please do. Please have a stretch. Stretch, grab a cup of tea, grab some water. And then we'll start. Well, we'll finish for the... I'm breaking all the rules, Ingrid, sorry.
Do you have a back for you?
Thank you. Fabulous.
I need some self-care immediately. Yeah.
Okay, if I can ask you to make your way back. We do have to get this show on the road, otherwise I'm going to be in big trouble by Ingrid. She'll be up on this microphone. I know. That's all right. Another minute. There'll be no excuse of falling asleep because they've all got their sugar intake and their caffeine, so it'll be fine. And your lollies, that's good. Okay, I think I've got the toughest gig, the last one of the day. So you'll have to be nice to me, okay? All right, I'm going to start because then you'll all make your way very quickly back. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Leon. Firstly, I'd really like to thank the Paccoa executive for asking me to speak today on something that I'm quite passionate about, and being a trainer at the New South Wales Brush Farm Academy, I've tried to incorporate this into some of our courses. So I think it's a really important topic and one that I'll continue to sing in most programs that I deliver. Before I get into it, I did have a slide that said 26 minutes, and that was something that I found that I've got about 26 minutes of your attention. And I know it's after 2:30, and I was on the bus yesterday afternoon. I don't think the gentleman's here, but he said to me, I saw your name in the colourful brochure that was given to us, and what time are you on? I said, 2:45. He said, you'd be lucky to keep them awake. And I said, so that's okay, because I need a couple of volunteers. So the ones I see asleep, that's my sign that you want to volunteer. So I'll be on the lookout, and I'm happy for you to nominate the person next to you if you need to. So, what is it that we do? How do we manage what we do? How do we manage sometimes thankless job, the stories we hear, the people we see, the trauma we sometimes experience by listening to their stories? How do we get up in the morning and do what we need to do with a smile on our face and the passion that we want to do the job? What I've come to talk to you about today is something that you probably already know, but it's just really important to remind you about it. I found this little quote, which I thought was quite apt. It wasn't in any motivational speaker book or anything like that. It was in the kitchen table wisdom. Kitchen table always goes back to food with me, for those that know you. So the expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it is as unrealistic as expecting to walk through water without getting wet. So I thought it was pretty apt in terms of the work we actually do. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about a term, vicarious trauma. What is it? What does it look like? And most importantly, what do we do about it? Who here's heard of vicarious trauma? Beautiful. So who can tell me what it is? Oh, now we're quiet. Yes. Experiencing, yes. So experiencing the... Beautiful. So experiencing the trauma that they've been through, that they're telling you about. Excellent. So a little bit about vicarious trauma, and we'll get on with some of the definitions, but a little bit about it. Vicarious trauma has been around, I'm sure, since DOT. We just didn't have a name for it. Back in the 1970s, they had their first formal look at what the effects were on some frontline emergency workers. They found that, like we just said, that some of the experiences that the frontline workers had was actually the symptoms that the people that they were treating had. And so that made them think, well, you know what, probably need to do a little bit more research. So over the years, quite a bit of research has been done, but it's been quite constricted to the frontline workers of emergency crew. So in 1990, McCann and Perlman, they came up with the term vicarious trauma. And I'm not one to label, but I find that at least there is something that tells us, or at least puts a label to how we're feeling and kind of legitimises it a little bit. In 1995, which isn't that long ago, they actually defined it. And it's a little technical, but it's really in the essence of what you said. So it's a little bit of emotional residue of the exposure that workers have from working with people as they're hearing about their trauma and become witnesses to the pain, fear and terror that trauma survivors have endured. It's a transformation that occurs in the inner experience of the therapist, or us, that comes as a result of empathic engagement with the material that we're actually seeing. So what does this mean for workers? What does it mean for us? What does it mean for those of us on the front line? Well, what it does mean is that if you've been in for a long time, you're more likely to experience it to a higher degree. What it also means is that what they've found is it's inevitable that everybody who works in this field will suffer from some type of vicarious trauma at some stage. So what does it mean for us? What they've found is that it actually comes with a change in our cognitive schema. So the way that we view our world, the changes that we have, the way that we see our world, the way that we see people in it, the way that we actually are able to function. And I don't know if any of you have had, if you think about when you first started doing this job to the person you are today, if your thinking's changed a little bit, perhaps, about some of the people that we work with. If we have a few jokes in the office about some of the types of people that we work with. I definitely have. More on that a little later. So what does it look like? Now you also, a lot of you have said, yes, I know what it is, and yes, I've probably experienced it or seen people experience it, but what does it actually look like? What does it look like to you? What have you seen in your office? What have you seen in the places that you work? Increased alcohol use? I was going to get someone to actually screw up, but that's okay. Increased alcohol use. Absence of work, did you say? Absence? Yeah. Tick and flick, I heard over here. Tick and flick that Naomi was talking about this morning. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Emotional eating. That's my excuse too. Emotional eating. What else? Cynicism. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And yeah. Excellent, and we'll talk about that a bit after. And it's interesting you say that because the high caseloads itself isn't necessarily vicarious trauma. The content of those caseloads, and the higher the caseload, the more trauma you're exposed to. The actual high caseloads has got to do with burnout, which is another concept, but still very important in terms of the trauma that we experience. But certainly, the high caseloads means we've got more cases and more experiences that we're reliving. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It's got to do with the trauma itself. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the longer you're there, the harder the cases are that you've got. Yeah, you just have all the sex offenders because you've been here for over 12 months and you're experienced. And you can have all the domestic violence ones. And the case manager, well, they get just very difficult ones too, but often they're the lighter ones, the driving matters and things that aren't as traumatic, which is fair enough given, you know, their experience. But certainly the longer you're there, the harder it becomes. Any other symptoms that we've seen? Mother Teresa syndrome, I like that. Yeah, over-servicing. Yep. So what does that look like? Yeah. Care Bear. Yep. Yes. So we can go over professional boundaries because we're trying to make a difference. We're trying to do what we can. Okay? Yeah, under. Normalising. Can you give us an example? Sorry, me? Oh, sorry. Normalising. Thank you. Normalising. Yep. Yeah, so it just becomes normal behaviour. You know, what we're reading is sort of just becomes normal. Oh, it's only another drive whilst it's qualified. It's only another assault. Yeah. Anything else from over here? Betty? Black humour, surely not, Betty. No. Bit of black humour, yeah, that helps us get through the day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anything else? Poor team dynamics. Yeah, yeah. What does that look like? Yeah, yeah. And it's hard on both sides. For the people that aren't there, maybe they're absent because of the trauma that they've experienced, and the ones left behind are also, they're the ones having to pick up the pieces. So it sounds like that, I mean, we've all experienced it. We all know what it looks like. So what do we do about it? Let's have a look. So I did say it's inevitable. We know it's going to happen. There's a cumulative effect. What I think is important to know is that it's a normal human response. Okay, we need to, in a way, normalise what we experience. It is a normal response to what we are reading, hearing, seeing. And if we understand that, then it's going to make it easier for us to talk about and to deal with. So I like this. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. And I think that's really important, because if you're not looking after yourself, how can we then go and look after other people? This is me sometimes. It's hard to believe. The hair's similar. Sometimes on the outside, sometimes on the inside. So if we know that vicarious trauma is inevitable, what surprises me in doing this work is the very little focus that we actually put on it. How much of a day do we actually put into looking after ourselves as compared to looking after the other people in our lives? An hour? Less? Who's less than an hour a day looking after yourself? I don't mean brushing your teeth and washing your hair. I mean taking time out to look after yourself. Who would less than an hour a day? Yeah? 1 to 2 hours a day? More than 3 hours? No? Oh yes, good. Fantastic. I think we need you to come up here and talk about what we can do. 3, that's fantastic. Excellent. We need to put more time into ourselves. It's not surprising we don't give enough. It is surprising that we don't give enough, and especially in light of what it does to us and the way that we see the world. I remember when I was in the job for about 18 months, and I was walking through a shopping centre, and I saw an old man wearing Target, what I called back then, Target loafers and long socks, and holding the hand of a little girl. And my immediate thought was, he's a sex offender. And it really struck me. I thought, oh, why would I think that? Like, why would... It's a horrible thing to say, isn't it, Lee? It's a terrible thing for me to think. Terrible. And it is. And it really took me aback to think, why do I, But that was the image that I had of a lot of sex offenders who had come into the office and I'd had interviewed and we had talked about and used the black humour. But that was a really turning point for me to figure that my world had changed. It wasn't the same as it was prior to becoming a community corrections officer. So, many people don't want to acknowledge that it's happening to them. They don't want to put their hand up and say, hey, I'm not feeling too good today. They don't want to use EAPS that our organisation provides very well. It's well advertised, but a lot of people don't access it. They don't talk to the person next to them saying, hey, I'm not coping well today, I've had a really bad day and this offender has come in. They don't do that, they don't take up that offer. So what's left to do then? What do we do about it? So self-care. Most of the research that I had a look at and just, and having a look at what can we do about self-care actually focused on the individual. It's your responsibility to look after yourself. So what can you do to improve the effects that your vicarious trauma will have on you? What can you do? So what are some of those things that you do? Can I ask what you would do to look after yourself in that 3 hours? Exercise. Excellent. Excellent. So bake, cook, exercise, and spend time with someone that's important to you. What else do you do? What about over here? Yeah. Meditation and yoga. I would have loved to have some yoga mats this afternoon, except I would love to, except they're already half asleep when I got here, so it's a bit hard. Workshop tomorrow, my aim is workshop, meditation and yoga. Love it. And we can have the exercise bikes on the other side for those of you who don't want to do yoga. It's excellent, yes. Music, dancing, singing. There were some other activities you spoke about last night at the conference, I know, yes. Crash TV, did you say? Oh, yes. Oh, trash. Absolutely. When everyone goes to bed, yeah, you sit there on the lounge and you watch TV. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Yep. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. So having that debrief, but saying, hey, this is the line. I know some people that actually wear a coat, and when they walk in the door, or they wear a special top, and when they walk in the door, they hang it on the hook. And when they leave in the morning, they put it on, and that is their delineation between work and home. And they don't talk about it outside of those times. So, yeah, excellent, excellent. There was someone over here? Yes, Liz. Excellent, Liz. That's excellent. Talking to other people that we work with. Working together. Beautiful. It takes us on to the next part of this, which is fantastic. In terms of an organisation, I thought this was apt. If you take care of your people will take care of your customers, and your business will take care of itself. So if the organisation puts in place some things for us, then we're going to look after the core business that we're meant to do. So I think that was quite apt. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what Liz was talking about, and that is how we actually work together to manage our vicarious trauma and the different challenges that it presents to us in terms of the work we do. I don't know if you can read this. We're encouraging people to become involved in their own rescue. I like it. That's the PPO, drowning. And this is sometimes the organisation saying, well, I've got all these things in place, but what can we do to help that individual? Because they can't help themselves right now. Okay. All right, so what I want you to do in your tables, I'm going to get you talking because you're probably sick of my voice by now, but I want you to come up with some really good strategies. Firstly, I want you to identify, I'm only going to give you 5, maybe 7 minutes to do this, but I want you to think about, in terms of what we've been speaking about, as an individual, as an office, as a group, what are some of the barriers to your self-care, and what can you do about them? So what are things that you've found that is actually stopping you? Because we're good at talking the talk, but what we find is that we don't often walk the walk. So talking is great, we all know what we should do, but by the hands up, very few of us actually do it on a regular basis. So what I want you to do is talk about, amongst your colleagues, what are the barriers? And I want you to come up with two main ones that you're going to talk back, well, not talk back to me, of course, but you're going to share collaboratively, like we do, some of the things that you've come up with. Okay? So about 7 minutes. Is that all right? I'll put my hand up with a 5. Oh, you... Another 2 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay. Unfortunately, we have to stop there, and we've actually got to feed back. So you've got to nominate someone to share at least one of your stories. Oh yes, Ingrid, thank you. So, can we start over here? Are you ready? What do you mean no? Yes. You didn't come to an agreement. Okay, are we ready to go? Okay, we'll start over here. So, the A team. What are the barriers to your self-care, and what can you do about them? Because just before we say, it's really important. This is how we come up with ideas. This is what reminds us what we need to do. Reminds us how we need to look after each other. Okay. So, 18.
Hello. One of the main things was long working hours, which interferes with our work-life balance. And a lot of us will work really long hours to achieve and get the job done, to achieve our SDOs or KPIs in other people's worlds. But you end up coming home and it's practically bedtime, and then we do it all again.
Okay.
So that's a barrier, is to actually trying to get the job done. And and just to go home, and if you don't have a partner or you don't have people who understand, it's quite difficult to debrief with people at home if they don't share the same knowledge or experience as yourself. Although some of us do, so it's a benefit. What was the other thing we had?
Sorry. There was some concern about that if employers actually disclose difficulties, personal difficulties, that it could affect career prospects, and that managers might think that, well, they're not up to scratch and may not be able to handle higher responsibilities.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So that weakness, that could be a weaker, may not be up to the job. Can you hear down the other side? Oh, good. Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. So they're the barriers, really important
Yes.
barriers. Now, what are we going to do about them? What are some strategies that we can actually do to address them?
Yeah, things like utilising, we have in Victoria the EAP, the telephone counselling, and so that to have that third person objection. Utilising location psychologists where needed, and taking days off when you have the opportunity.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Can I just add that all specialist case managers in Victoria have debriefing with a clinical psychologist once a month.
Fabulous.
And it's part of their role, and it's compulsory. So that's a fantastic professional, in a professional supportive environment where they can actually debrief and they can actually talk about work-related issues and sometimes personal as well. So that's a really great forum. I often wonder why that can't be available to all of us, but obviously it's funding driven and whatnot, but it's a fantastic model that we have in Victoria for our specialist case managers. So that can alleviate some of the vicarious trauma that you're talking about, reading about police summaries and that sort of thing, and the demands of the job.
Excellent. I haven't walked away because I'm not listening. I just remembered that I probably should be writing these up. So, debriefing. Yes, I think that's a very important thing. And you're saying, yeah, you've actually got that as a formal process. Mandated. So, mandated debriefing. Has anyone else got that? What state? Oh, yes, ACT? Yes. Okay, so will that be mandated?
Look, no, I have a big voice. No, I'm not really considering mandating it. However, I believe all my staff have embraced the notion and welcomed it. And it's something that, like, I've been in corrections probably for about 20 years, and over that time, you know, it's been the song sung by probation and parole staff.
Yeah,
Where is our professional supervision? And so I really feel fortunate in the ACT that we're a small jurisdiction and we're able to do this for our staff.
Excellent, excellent, okay, beautiful. So debriefing, using the days that were allocated. Most of us have got flex time. Using that flex time, using our rec leave, so using actual leave and days off. Good. Excellent, thank you. Next table, yes please. Oh, come on, who's going to speak? Naomi's looking down. Listen, the AGM needs to happen soon, so come on, Nairi.
It's not my fault. Okay, we identified a couple of things. Time is always the big factor.
Yep.
Resources, which tends to generally be out of our hands, as in organisational expectations. Competing priorities, and the fact that internal and external stressors actually collide at some point.
Yeah.
The way we addressed it, selfishness versus selflessness, drawing the line, the boundary. It's 4 o'clock, I know this needs to be done, but I have a life and I'm going to have my life. Be happy with what it is that you have actually achieved on a day where you don't think you have really achieved much. Maintain all of your external supports and a positive home life. Use your breaks and your holidays, as you just said, and make commitments so that you won't break them. I will be there to pick the kids up at 4 p.m. and nothing will stop me doing that.
Excellent. Spelling's just gone out the window. There's no spell check on a flip chart. Excellent. So selfishness has got such a negative connotation, but it's time. I need time for myself. Yeah, excellent. Yep. Acknowledging achievements, even the little ones. Yeah. I woke up and got through the day. Excellent. Okay, next table.
Yeah, we looked at it as being, I suppose, the same thing. It's time. It's been time poor, and then time management is one way. You know, you need to look at that sort of thing. But what we discussed at the table here was about setting time aside to actually have client-free periods. And I think anyone that knows where I work at Lake Macquarie, we do that on a regular basis, where we do have client-free days on a Friday, and the staff get together. We have these fun days where we dress up. We might look like idiots, but we have a lot of fun, and we keep the humour in the office. Those that have been to our office and have seen it, they'll know we've got a big pole in the middle of the office, and that is just covered with photos.
Right, and photos.
It's good. It's something you've got to see. But there's a couple of people in the room here that are aware of it. But yeah, it's about keeping staff, relaxed a bit more, and then if they want to participate, they participate. If they don't, they don't.
Excellent.
But
I'd love to. I haven't seen those photos in the bulletin.
Next time you come up to the office, Anita.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing those.
Yeah.
Too much fun.
No, it is good. But it is about also having an outside interest.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, the colleagues I know that I work with where I am, when I look around the office, majority of the colleagues we work with have got an outside interest. And I think that's what keeps our sanity a lot of times, given the industry we work in.
Excellent. So outside interest. Sometimes with our colleagues?
Yeah, sometimes, but a lot of times, I mean, I know I can speak for where I'm working at the moment at Lake Macquarie. It's we've got a lot of staff there now, and people have their own outside interests. They go and do what they want to do outside the job, and it's, you know, when they come, they work. When they go away, the work's gone.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Next table.
All right, we sort of talked about the debriefing as well, and one of the barriers was a reluctance to overshare because you're adding to your colleagues' vicarious trauma. So we said that you could probably designate a time as a team to debrief
Team.
and actually stick to it. Book it into everyone's calendars and make sure that everybody attends, even if they don't want to participate.
Love it. Calendar. Send those calendar Outlook appointments.
Yeah.
And make it happen. I think back earlier somebody said, you know, make it happen. Don't just say it. I think it was Nari. You know, if you're going to say it, have a commitment.
Yeah.
This is important. This is just important as having our interviews with our offenders.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We need to take time out and have time for ourselves.
Yeah. We also said a date night with yourself.
Oh, what, sorry?
Just a date night,
Oh,
book a
I love
night
it.
just
Love
for
it.
you,
Where are you from?
Alice Springs.
Oh, Alice Springs or date night.
So there's not too much exciting stuff to do on a date in Alice Springs.
Date night. How many people go on this date night?
No, just yourself.
Oh, just yourself? It's lonely.
That's what I said. After 6 minutes, you don't know what to do with yourself.
Fabulous. Okay. Anything else? Well, that's the main one.
Look, in the Northern Territory, we do monthly review sessions, so the team leaders have to have a monthly review session. We have to designate at least an hour to each staff member, so that does help as well.
Is that just on? Is that debriefing or that's separate
Yeah,
to
I
debriefing?
guess. Well, yeah, it is. So you
Okay.
talk about caseload, but you talk about, you know, how are you going? Are you
Beautiful.
okay? How can I support you to, you know,
Excellent.
improve or to cope?
Is that just for your office or is that across your?
That's a Northern Territory thing.
That is. So you, as an organisation, they acknowledge that that's important. Fantastic. All New South Wales, we've got a long way to go.
Coming to you. Who'd like to talk? The hands out. Pass it off.
I think pretty much everything that we've come up with has been the same. It's already been discussed. Staying at work too long. Lack of motivation, I think that comes from exhaustion, getting home and, you know, dealing with the family and then just thinking, well, I just want to go to bed, not think about going for a walk or gardening or yoga.
Yep.
But the other one that we came up with was not wanting to show a sign of weakness, and I think it's more about not wanting to open those floodgates when you're really under pressure.
Excellent.
And you're really feeling that vicarious trauma, but too frightened to say, well, you know, if I stop, then what am I letting myself in for? Am I letting the workplace down? Am I letting my peers down, my colleagues down, my clients down?
Yeah. A bit like Pandora's box, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't know,
yeah.
need to open that lid.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So what can you do about it? What have you is your table?
I think, you know, I'm in the Northern Territory, but not with corrections, with an NGO, and we have access to a counselling service as well.
Okay. Yep.
And we regularly debrief with I debrief with my staff individually on for an hour a fortnight, and when issues arise, and I think, and also making time as a team to do something fun, like, you know, the photo poll sounds fantastic. We've we go out for lunch once a month.
Good.
or you know, go and have a beer after work on a Friday afternoon, and I think those things are really important because sometimes it is really difficult to go home and debrief with the family and confidentiality, but you know, it's different interests and different things going on at home as well.
Yeah, excellent. And so these you do with your work colleagues, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So lunch, I think, a lot of people do lunch, but then the beer after work, excellent.
Yeah.
You don't want to have too many beers because you don't want to remember it the next day, but in moderation, of course, yeah. Great. Lovely Ingrid making her walk. This table, lovely ladies at the front.
I love the idea of the poll.
Yes, we
Anita.
talked about that last night. I
It was
thought
a plant poll,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I did a home visit, and there was a poll in an offender's lounge room, and I thought it looked like my grandmother's poll that she has her plants on. And I said, "Oh, do you put your plants on there?" And they said, "No, that's for my wife to pole dance." Okay, so we talked about that last night. Stress release, whatever.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
And yeah, testimony to that one. It's great for you.
Pole dancing,
The best
yes.
exercise.
Right.
And we came up with pretty similar issues as other tables, like time poor.
It's important.
The time is always going to be the same. We've all got the same amount of time, so that's how we manage that time, and the thinking that we have about that time is really important. So perhaps looking at it all from a different perspective, and seeing how we can do things a little better, and how we can do it a bit smarter. And you've all come up with some great ideas for that too, so I won't sort of add to that. We also talked about isolation. There's a lot of distance between our offices. Where we're isolated from the support networks. We don't have another person in the office that we can just go, just let it all out and vent. That's sort of not an option for some people. So no immediate support or limited support. Insofar as that is concerned, we hadn't actually come up with any strategies, but while I was pondering it, thinking how we can think outside the square in relation to that, and set up some networks where we can literally access support for people who are in isolated offices or who work on their own, and have difficulty accessing someone that they can vent to, especially if it's an immediate issue.
Yeah.
And also learning, training, learning about how we can best look out after ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do things differently as supervisors, as managers, and teaching our staff how we can do it differently.
Yeah.
I also, we have Frivolous Friday, one of the other fellows, and we have submitted something to the bulletin, by the way, so Kempsey will have some photographs, not of the poll. I'm actually asking for that to be introduced, but I think we'd probably end up using the poll for something else, which could be dangerous. But certainly, Frivolous Fridays, where we get to dress up or have themes each week or however.
Every Friday.
Every
Beautiful.
Friday, and also positive affirmations on our whiteboard.
Good. Yeah. Positive affirmations. That I've seen that as I've gone along. Excellent. Just a little reminder that life isn't all that heavy and bad. Thank you. And you can sing. You want to sing too? Okay.
You could
Middle
always
table,
use the
second last table.
Paccoa forum. Yes, on the website.
Yes.
Isn't that right, Paul?
Yes.
Who'd like to contribute?
We're replicating a little, but we do have one new thing to contribute.
Beautiful.
And one of the barriers we came up with was confidentiality and the content of the work. So, having a bad day, having to read some tough material, and then wanting to go home and talking about it, but there's confidentiality issues, and also you don't want to damage the people you love with the content that you've had to deal with. So how do we deal with that? And I guess one of the solutions for us is about being selective about who we do talk to, and having a special relationship with a colleague or someone that you can have as your go-to person, and maybe you're theirs, or maybe they've got someone else, and possibly taking on a formal mentor, something more formal in that process as well. One of the biggest barriers we felt took place in community corrections was pride, and not wanting to admit that we're struggling with the content, even though we all do. And I can tell the people from Victoria who have the mandatory debriefing where that came from, just very quickly, because way back yonder when I was a CCO, appalling as I was, we all know that now, I had an incident at work one day that really distressed me. And the next day I told my manager about it, Mario Nuzzo, who still, love him because of this, and he was profound at this time. And he said to me, Mayumi, I'm calling in whatever the service was at the time, and I'm going to arrange for you to see a psychologist today, and you don't have a choice.
Beautiful.
And you know what? It was fantastic because I didn't have to put my hand up and say, you know what, I'm hurting because of this or I'm struggling. It took all of the responsibilities out of my hand. I could have said, no, I'm fine, but I have to. And when I designed the specialist case management model, it was that direct experience that made me build in the mandatory debriefing for you guys, because it's so important in that line of work, and I'm so pleased that it's hung around. So that's why it's there, because of Mario Nuzzo, and we should all love him because of that. So I do believe that mandatory debriefing is
Really important, yeah.
is
Yeah,
just so effective in this line of work because of the pride, and we don't want to put our hands up and say we're struggling today.
And they often say, I know in the research, some of the research I was reading, it was sorry.
Talking to your cat.
Talking to your cat, beautiful.
You know,
Animals.
if there's no one else who you want to
Animals.
talk to about this, talking to your cat or your
Animals.
dog.
Animals are very
Yes.
important.
They
Yes,
are.
absolutely.
Or your fish.
Yep. Last table. Before I,
Here we go.
is there anything?
Oh, no, that's right,
Lee.
Lucky last.
Lucky
Well, I have got to share something new with you, but I think we talked about time, too busy. In Goulburn, we have always had a culture of dropping tools at morning tea and at afternoon tea, and we use a school bell.
Yes.
So someone goes out into the staff room, rings the bell, and everyone goes out. Now, if you don't go out, there's pressure and support. Why aren't you coming out for morning tea? So then the new trainees get the culture of the office and they go and have their morning and afternoon teas. And it's quite amazing if you don't go out there. You've got staff saying, "What, are you okay? Have you eaten? Have you had a cup of tea?" So, I mean, it's the culture of the office, but that can go against you as well if the culture of management or the culture of the office is to reward a workaholic. So culture can be a barrier
Yes, absolutely.
in your own office. So my advice, all get a school bell.
A school bell. I've been
And,
there,
have
and
morning
it's
and afternoon
wonderful.
tea.
Every day the school bell goes. I thought, what's going on here? It's morning tea time. Music to my ears. Fantastic. What,
As part of Mental Health Week recently, we ran a blue light disco, and prior to that we had the Stress Down Games. So we had a games afternoon where we played
stressed out games?
Stress
is that?
Down,
Oh, lovely.
Stress Down Games, Stress Down.
Fantastic.
And we've also done Mindful in May together, Mindful in May.
Mindful
That's
in May,
a
like
national
mindfulness.
campaign
Fantastic.
in May.
Fantastic.
But you probably all listened to all the ABC stuff during Mental Health Week
Yes.
recently, and the most significant evidence-based practice around workplace stress is reducing the stigma. It's just-
Absolutely.
the stigma
yeah,
is what keeps us all
absolutely.
trapped
Yep, that's exactly
within
right.
it.
Exactly.
So stigma smashing.
Yep, it's a stigma smashing. I like it. And even taking part in those mental health months that they have in most organisations. So stigma smashing. I love it. So we all know what to do, and I know I've gone way over time, and I think I haven't got a look from the lovely Ingrid, but it will be very soon. So this was, we didn't say anything, this was going to be my last option, but you came up with much better ideas than I had, so that's all right. Okay, we've covered all this. Sorry, you want me to put it back? Bang head here. Look, you all know what the answers are. I'm going to put a Facebook. You all know what to do. You know to be aware. You know to acknowledge. You know to balance your life, your yin and your yang. You're good and you're bad, you're black and you're white. You know to collaborate. You know what to do. My challenge for you is to go out and do it. Make it an item on your meetings. Make it a calendar reminder to all your staff. So don't just say it, don't just talk the talk, make sure you walk the walk, because that's the only way we're all going to survive in this industry, in an industry that's fabulous and helps so many other people. We need to help ourselves and we need to help these wonderful people that are around us. So let's self-care together and make our lives a much happier place. That's it. Oh, if I had time I'd tell you, but I don't. But I had a big magazine article, and this was my title, Parole Officer by Day, Tupperware by Night, and that's how I self-managed. But that's for another time. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.